Now, the Chamber has heard many stories from its members and the wider Toowoomba community about the impact the current critical lack of housing is having, not only on local businesses, but the whole of our community. We understand these concerns, and today, by bringing together industry leaders from different sectors, the Chamber aims to drive business-led community solutions to this crisis.
The vacancy rate is now at a record low. The average time a house is vacant in 12 months is 3 days.
Now, generally speaking, what you're trying to do is keep 5 years' worth of supply in reserve. What we're seeing there is that reserve of stock is falling away. The forecast for this quarter just gone was that there would be something like 554 lots sealed and released to the community and released for sale. The reality is there was only 15. We've got a very, very dire situation ahead of us. It's taken a number of years to get there, and it's going to take a number of years to dig out.
In September, that there was some legislation that was put in place to protect renters from being evicted over COVID. So we saw on our end that when that legislation ended, there was a lot of people whose tenancies were ended, a lot of people who were evicted, and we saw a mass exodus from the rental market. And over the last 12 months, we've seen the face of homelessness change from being an individual who might be experiencing job loss, mental health, illness, separation, grief or loss, to a family with 3 or 4 children who cannot find accommodation in the private rental market.
And we have a number of different income levels within our hospital. Those at the lower end are often in rental accommodation. And what's happening to those people is when their contracts are coming up, they're either being asked to leave, or the amount that they're being asked to pay, an increase, is huge. Because we can't fill the positions, because people can't find accommodation, doing double shifts. That means someone who's looking after your loved one has worked 16 hours. You can imagine the implications in health, just to be aware of what is going wrong with your loved one who is sick, or imagine having a baby and having a midwife looking after you who's worked 16 hours. The potential for something to go wrong is high.
And as the stock gets tighter, the lower end housing that was providing, low cost accommodation for disadvantaged members of the society has disappeared, has been renovated and turned into, what was a $300,000 house, 12 months later turns into a $750,000 house.
If we don't do anything, then it constrains, business gets constrained, it can't grow, we stagnate.
What will happen eventually in the health industry is that health services will be ceased or be reduced because we can't have staff to be able to support the services.
Now, we've spent an enormous amount of time marketing the opportunities for Toowoomba, the fact that there are affordable and available housing in Toowoomba, and there isn't. And that's really quite alarming, because the opportunity that we've worked so hard for is now in jeopardy because we can't actually provide for it. We want to see the expansion of the priority infrastructure area. That's critical, because we actually have to open up more land fronts. Where there is land which is designated as supposedly to be developed, there is a mismatch between what is perceived to be there and what is actually there.
At the moment, we've got way too much demand at every single level, and we don't have enough supply. Now, I don't know whether we have to go and look at how other areas have done this innovatively when they've found themselves in this situation, but we need housing, particularly at the lower end, really quickly.
We can't get people to develop more of what's in the priority infrastructure area, then we need to make that priority infrastructure area bigger. That will have the effect of increasing supply, putting a lid on prices, improving housing affordability for new builds, and will also mean that we will start to see more of the first homeowner stock returning to the investment market, and also being able to be purchased by first homeowners.
So we have lots of buildings which are sitting empty, waiting for future developments. We'd love to see these properties that have been earmarked opened up. We also have places which used to offer accommodation which no longer do, just sitting there. So just to use as an immediate quick response, we really need all levels of government to work with us.
And we need people in the room who are the decision makers, the people who adjust the policies that impact this, and we need agreement in the room.
So at the moment, we're developing our new planning scheme with thought about where the growth areas are, what's going to happen with the climate, what's going to happen with lots of other things. So it has to be a thoughtful process combined with our development industry, combined with all of the services in our community to get a thoughtful, proper new planning scheme that's going to address today's issues.
But Chamber is really committed to progressing this issue. We are in a crisis, it's affecting our whole community, and our role is to bring together the community, because I think alone we can't solve it. I think we need our collective input, we need strong leadership in the space, and we need to all work together.
I'm sure you'll agree that was a wonderful summary of the issues that must be actioned if we want to see improvement in this housing space. Rest assured that the Chamber is committed to leading those outcomes to fruition.